Well, here we are with that project I was telling you guys about. This is a 1975 or later Case 2470. We found out about this one by word of mouth. It's been sitting for probably about 15 years or maybe a little longer. What we've done to it so far, took the hood off it to see what we got. All four tires were low. Two of them we aired up, and the starter was full of water, so we pulled that out, and we got a new starter for it because the new starter came faster than the rebuild parts did, so we got the new starter. So we're gonna put that in today. We got to drain the oil because there was some antifreeze in it from, we're thinking, bad O-rings on the sleeves, but we think it'll make it home. We're gonna try to drive it home. The goal is to get it running today and maybe moving, but we'll see how far we get. Stay tuned for this interesting project. Yeah, all kinds of fun colors going in there. So the motor was really tight. So tight that the starter, that was junk, we found out later after we tore it apart, would not turn it over. We have a new starter, but we knew this was tight. It had a potential to be stuck because it's been sitting under trees, sort of out of the weather. Nope, not at all out of the weather, for a long time. So take the starter out if you want to move one that you think could be stuck and see if it's stuck. If you want to take one that's tight like this was, it would only move like 10 degrees and it'd get to a firm stop. So Dad did that for me while I was doing some other stuff. He held it against where it was tight and then just let it sit. And then we think it's rust in the cylinders. He thought it was water at first, but there's no way water would come through the exhaust and back up that giant elbow from the muffler through the turbo and down when that ring there's leaking out. So there's no way water would get in that way. Could have come up through the oil pan from the sleeves, but I doubt it. But it's moving now. So what we're gonna do, top hole, and this is way more on this motor anyway, leverage to do it from the starter hole than from the front crank bolt, because the front crank bolt's there's no access hole out there to get it because the radiator's in the way. Some of the other tractors you can get it that way. This one you cannot. Like our 1370, I believe you can stick a bar in there and turn it through, but this you cannot. So this is 15 times more leverage than that because the flywheel's, 20-inch diameter or so. You got 10 inches from the center bolt area out to the outside. Plus I have a 3-foot bar on it. So that's like 15 times more leverage than on the crank bolt. So the way we're turning this one, we're turning it backwards right now, but that's just free is free. And then I got to reposition my hands here and get a better grip on this. And it is moving. So find a tooth, pull up on it, and it is turning. Dad's thinking we'll only be able to get her to run on 4 cylinders, but it's going to need overhauled when it gets home anyway. We might as well drive it home instead of getting it hauled home, because you can't get a semi into where this is. It's kind of out in the mountains, so we're gonna keep borrowing it over here. And we started taking fuel lines off thinking we'd have to pull injectors to let water out, so I gotta undo that, tighten the leak off lines back up, and then we'll see about putting a starter in it. I think the oil that came out of it, it's kind of thick looking, so that's kind of scary, but at least the filters look all right. A little bit of rust on the top there, but the water likes to sit in that lip right there on the top and collect into rust there. But the filters look solid, so we're going to leave them because it's going to catch all that sludge. Then it's going to get driven a few miles home and rebuilt promptly. So no sense in putting new filters on it just to ruin them too, because those will catch whatever's already in there, and they've been catching what was already in there, so it should be fine. So the engine, we barred it over a full revolution. We marked on the crank pulley to know that we got a whole revolution, and then we got through the tight spots, and Dad can now spin it with the fan because the pulleys are rusty and the belts are really tight, so we're getting extra traction there. So it'll spin a full revolution now. We got our oil put in it. We ran a little bit of clean oil through it to push the gunk out. We found this master cylinder is cracked and blown up, so she's not going to be driving today, but that'll be our next big problem. Okay, starter's now in. We had to pull the dipstick tube out and do a whole bunch of wiggling. We're getting set up to do some wiring right now for the starter because we're only going to run it from one battery for now. because the leads that jump from here to there aren't real good looking. And we're short a bolt for the bottom of the starter there. Right there. That bolt we're missing. But we cranked it over when it was stuck with a different starter that didn't quite fit with 2 bolts, and it was fine. So it should be okay. Now that the motor's not as stuck, it turns over freely. We got to put fuel lines back on, and wiring is our next task here. Yep, cheese factory. There's so much horsepower, it's trying to escape. There's so many little dents on the wheel pan. It cranks over forward and gets to a tight spot, and then you go to crank it over backwards. It does several revolutions with the starter. It'll get to a tight spot, the starter will get angry and quit. And you turn it backwards by hand and it hits something hard. I wonder what caused that. Hopefully it's been gone through since then, but I'm starting to wonder, can we drop the pan under here?
I'm not going that far here.
That sounds better. No oil pressure yet. It's getting faster.
Big fuel on.
Yep.
I'm gonna get a can of starting fluid. I got nothing to lose this.
And turn signals work. In here anyway. That's kind of cool. Basically nothing else so far works. That door's kind of mangled up. I think it got caught on something because it's been cracked and booger welded, and the mounts ripped out of the seat. Got just a mini mouse house in there. No, mouse metropolis. Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching.